The nominations have been announced for the 94th Academy Awards, and I wanted to make some videos predicting what I think is going to win in most of the categories. In my last video, I predicted what's going to win in costume design and makeup and hairstyling. In this 6th of 10 prediction videos, I'm going to talk about what I think is going to win Best Production Design and Best Cinematography. Here we go. First up is Production Design. The nominees are Patrice Vermette for Production Design and Zuzana Sipos for Set Decoration of Dune, Tamara Deverell for Production Design, and Shane Vio for Set Decoration of Nightmare Alley, Grant Major for Production Design, and Amber Richards for Set Decoration of The Power of the Dog, Stefan Deschamps for Production Design, and Nancy Hay for Set Decoration of The Tragedy of Macbeth, and Adam Stockhausen for Production Design, and Rena D'Angelo for Set Decoration of West Side Story. Some categories this year are easy to predict, some are a little bit harder than others. I would say that Production Design this year is a really tough category to predict. I could see any one of these 5 films winning. Production design of all 5 are terrific. And you could predict Power of the Dog, which has a lot of nominations. Tragedy of Macbeth has beautiful production design all the way through. Of course, the production design of West Side Story and Nightmare Alley and Dune are all extraordinary. This one is a head scratcher. Some of these videos I've recorded and categories I've talked about, I come into it knowing, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what's going to win this. Or maybe I have it down to 2. I'm like, well, it's going to be this or this. I'm going to go with this one. I could see any one of these 5 movies winning. I mean, Dune has 10 Oscar nominations. It's going to win in a lot of the technical categories. It could easily pick this one up too. West Side Story, I'm hoping wins at least 2 Oscars on March 27th. I hope it doesn't just get supporting actress and that's it. I feel like the production design all the way through that movie is really fantastic, so that could win in this category. As I said, Power of the Dog has 12 nominations. I think The Power of the Dog will win at least 1 or 2 technical categories. I just don't know. I am really, really confused on this category. I feel like this one is the biggest crapshoot of any of the 20 categories I'm talking about. Honestly, I could hear any one of these films' titles being read as the winner, and I would go, okay. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. There's not like a weird 4th or 5th title here that didn't show up anywhere else. I mean, when you look at these films, the only one that didn't get into picture is The Tragedy of Macbeth. So I guess if I had to push one aside, it's The Tragedy of Macbeth, just because it didn't get into picture. And I feel like it might not have as much love as these other 4 titles. But let's get serious. Let's really think about this, okay? We got to think about we have to think about this. What is going to win production design? Dune, I think, has a great shot in winning sound, visual effects, film editing. You might hear me talk about it in another category in a couple minutes here. But I think I can safely say Dune is not going to win production design because I feel like most voters will think of Dune as an example of visual effects and amazing sound design. I don't think you think of Dune as like production design and set decoration. I feel like we think of movies that are a little bit more grounded for this category, so I'm not going to predict Dune. The other one, man, West Side Story. I am really struggling with this because I keep not predicting West Side Story, but it got into picture. It got into director. It didn't get into screenplay, so there's that. And it only got that 1 acting nomination. So I still think there's not a great amount of adoration for the film compared to some others. But I feel like in my gut, West Side Story is going to win in 1 technical category. I just don't know which one it is. Like, it might be cinematography, it might be production design, it might be costume design. I predicted Cruella to win costume design, and I'm already like rethinking that a little. I'm like, wait, maybe West Side Story might get that. Cruella's not in picture director, like maybe it will go to West Side Story. So I don't know. I'm gonna be really like, banging my head against the wall if on Oscar night West Side Story ends up winning like 2 or 3 technical categories, because I feel like it might happen. I don't know why I keep not predicting it. But once again, I'm not going to predict West Side Story for production design. I feel like this might be the one it has the best chance in winning outside of supporting actress. If West Side Story has a chance to win one other Academy Award, I feel like it's production design. But I'm still stubbornly not going to predict it. I feel like this category comes down to Nightmare Alley and The Power of the Dog. And I feel like the safe choice in some ways is The Power of the Dog because of its 12 nominations. And I think Power of the Dog is going to miss in a few of the technical categories. But I think that this one, it has one of its best shots in the below the line categories. I just don't know. I feel like the production design is a little too muted. I just don't know if it's really going to stand out enough to the voters. So I'm almost thinking West Side Story in some ways has a better shot in winning this category than Power of the Dog. Do you like hearing me kind of talk through my thoughts about this? I'm just like, yeah, I feel like I had more confidence in almost any other category prediction, and this one, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of confidence. I'm really struggling with this. Here's what it comes down to for me. I watched Nightmare Alley, and say what you will about the film, I had some problems with it. On a technical level, it is an extraordinary piece of work. The cinematography, the production design, the costume design, it looks just insane. It looks so great. We wouldn't expect anything less from Del Toro, and I feel like Nightmare Alley getting into Best Picture unexpectedly. That was the one of the 10 I had like no idea it was going to get into picture. It shows that there is more love for Nightmare Alley than many of us predicted. And so I think Nightmare Alley is going to surprise in one technical category. I think it's going to win one. I'm not feeling cinematography, which I'll talk about in a moment. And I feel like if there's one category it might surprise as the winner, it's production design. So this one's really tricky. As I said at the beginning, I think any one of these 5 could win. I think West Side Story and Power of the Dog especially have a pretty good shot, and I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them won. But I'm going to go with a little bit of a wild card here. I think Nightmare Alley is going to win something. It's of course not going to win picture. That's not going to happen. But I think it could win one of the technical categories. I think this one is its best shot. So my prediction for the winner of production design is Tamara Deverell for production design and Shane Vo for set decoration of Nightmare Alley. Next up is Best Cinematography. The nominees are Greg Fraser for Dune, Dan Laustsen for Nightmare Alley, Ari Wegner for The Power of the Dog, Bruno Del Bonal for The Tragedy of Macbeth, and Janusz Kaminski for West Side Story. Notice something familiar in the cinematography category. It's the same 5 films that are nominated for Best Production Design. That's really interesting, like that all 5 films nominated in cinematography line up exactly in the production design category. These, of course, are 5 of the best films of the year when you think about the technical qualities. I mean, all 5 of these films are just extraordinary in their cinematography, in their production design. I really struggled predicting the winner in production design. I really had to talk my way through, as you heard before. I feel like cinematography is a little bit more obvious, unless it isn't. Like maybe going with the biggest movies of these 5 might not be the smartest choice because, again, like in production design, I could hear the title of any of these 5 movies winning and I wouldn't be that surprised. If Tragedy of Macbeth or West Side Story or Nightmare Alley were called as the winner, I'd be like, okay, yeah. Like I wouldn't be like, what? Like, how did that happen? I feel like, of course, there'll be a couple categories on Oscar night where that will happen, where I'll just be like, huh? like a movie that I talked about in one of these videos, like, has no shot, and then, of course, it wins. I'm sure that'll happen in at least 1 or 2 categories. I never get everything right, so we'll see what happens. But I feel like cinematography is a little bit easier to predict than production design. I would actually say that The Tragedy of Macbeth has a better shot to win cinematography than it does production design because the look of that film is so amazing. The black and white and the starkness of it and the shadows and the depth. I mean, that movie looks really great. If there was going to be a shocker upset in the cinematography category, I could see it being The Tragedy of Macbeth. I could actually, I mean, I'm not going to predict it, but I think that could be in like second or third place, not fifth, just because it's not in the Best Picture category. Cinematography doesn't always line up with picture. It doesn't always have to have a nomination for Best Picture to win in cinematography, so I think that The Tragedy of Macbeth has a better shot here than some might be predicting, but I still think it's in second or third. I think Nightmare Alley's win is going to be in production design. It could happen here. I mean, watching that movie the other night, it really does look extraordinary all the way through. It's beautifully shot. So that could win. I don't know. I mean, I feel like of all these videos I've made for the predictions, like I feel like production design and cinematography is the biggest toss-up. Like any of these movies could win. It's really tricky. I feel like West Side Story also has a good shot. That movie looks so beautiful all the way through. The use of the camera in that movie. I mean, Spielberg knows how to shoot his movies well, and Janusz Kaminski has been there all the way since Schindler's List. I mean, for almost every movie, I want to say, that Spielberg has made in the last 30 years. It's really, his work is just always dazzling to me, so I'd be happy with a win there. But again, I feel like it comes down to the two films that have the most nominations. I feel like this category comes down to Dune and The Power of the Dog. The question is, do we want to go with the, quote unquote smaller film or the giant blockbuster movie for cinematography? I feel like the same way I talked about in my video about like costume design, I feel like when you think of cinematography, best cinematography, you think of the movie that just looks the most extraordinary all the way through. And I don't know if Academy voters will necessarily look at Power of the Dog and think, wow, best cinematography. It's got lots of scenes of darkness and it's very quiet. I feel like that movie's going home with a lot of Oscars. I don't know if cinematography is the category it's going to win. I would actually, weirdly, put Power of the Dog under a couple of these other titles. In some ways, I feel like Nightmare Alley and even Tragedy of Macbeth have a better shot in winning this. I think all these films have a chance in winning cinematography. Just like in production design, I'm not 100% confident in this one either. I do feel a little bit more confident in cinematography because I do think Dune, which got 10 nominations, is one of the most extraordinary looking movies I've seen in years. I mean, I saw Dune on an IMAX screen and I could not believe some of the images I was seeing. I mean, that is an amazing looking movie. You can say that West Side Story, Tragedy of Macbeth, Power of the Dog, Nightmare Alley have terrific cinematography, which they do. But I don't know if any of them hold a candle to the stunning visuals of Dune. I mean, like that movie, not like that movie, love it, hate it, anything, I don't know. I don't care. Like, the look of Dune is astonishing. And so I feel like that's the obvious choice to win. I've been kind of talking myself out of it the last couple minutes. I don't know. Because, I think Nightmare Alley is going to win at least one Academy Award. It could surprise here. Power of the Dog got 12 nominations. It might be a case of a lot of voters just checking it off the list, and maybe they didn't like Dune as much, and so they vote Power of the Dog here. I don't know. West Side Story, I really want it to win in one other category other than supporting actress. This could be the one. And Tragedy of Macbeth, man, I watched that the other night. That movie looked amazing too. So, I mean, any of these could win. I just think Dune is at another level. So, having said all that, my prediction for the winner of Best Cinematography is Greg Fraser for Dune. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what you think is going to win in these very difficult to predict categories of production design and cinematography. Do you agree with my choices? Do you think I have it all wrong? We'll find out on March 27th. Join me in my next video when I predict what's going to win an adapted screenplay and original screenplay. See you then.